Welcome to another episode of the Sports Sentiment. I am your host, Nick Urias, and we are back once again talking college basketball. That is right, folks. We're here to recap everything that occurred in the Mountain West on Tuesday, January 13th. We had ourselves a pretty good four-game Mountain West slate, just kind of how we thought when we talked to you earlier in the week. Of course, Tuesdays are always pretty action-packed as far as this league is concerned, and I have to say, it's always nice when you get to sit down and just watch four games all at once and kind of go back and forth and dissect things from there. We had some games staggered from 6 to 8 p.m. I mean, Boise and UNLV was a late night thriller out here on the West Coast. That one ended up going to overtime, but I mean, San Jose State and Air Force going at it, GCU in New Mexico, Colorado State and Fresno State, and then Boise State and UNLV. I got some thoughts and breakdowns for all four of those games. And then we're going to actually talk about a game that's happening tonight here. We're recording this on a Wednesday afternoon. San Diego State and Wyoming out in Laramie. Not too often San Diego State go out there. I know they were out there a year ago, won by 3. In a very tight knitted battle there, but there's always been kind of I guess just a joke, or not a joke, but I guess like, hey, San Diego State never comes out to Laramie, which was always like an interesting thing in the schedule. I have no idea why that was the deal, but Wyoming would always go to Viejas and get drilled, and we'll dive into that matchup later on. But I wasn't at San Jose State last night. Didn't end up calling a broadcasting a game there, so I ended up having work off at the same time. And usually on these Tuesday nights, if I'm not in San Jose at the event center, I'm usually working elsewhere on a Tuesday night. So how I end up getting all these games to everybody is, if let's just say San Jose's on the road or something like that, I end up taping all the games and then rewatching them later. So it was very nice, kind of, laying low on a Tuesday night and just kind of going across the board, watching all the games. And of course you get the multi-view going, so you see everything else that's going across the landscape, but just a pretty low key Tuesday night. And here we are, 12 plus hours later, bringing you all the action. So let's rock and roll. I have to say, we did a pretty good job kind of, breaking things down and laying out our predictions. If you didn't see, our Monday podcast, just previewing the Tuesday slate and kind of just what I envisioned happening, we did a pretty good job. And I have to say, we could start out with this first one with Colorado State and Fresno State. And hey, don't be shocked if these Rams go into the Save Mart Center and have themselves a little bit of trouble. I mean, look, Fresno's been pretty good at home this year. Kind of flying under the radar of how good they've been this year at home. And I know they played themselves kind of a not so great schedule, but look, they were a 2-possession underdog in this game, and they led this game wire to wire. So you got to give Vance Wahlberg's group some credit. 79-69 victory out there in the Central Valley. How about Jake Heidbreeder? This guy's he's good for Fresno this year. How about that free throw number? 16 for 16 on 3 for 6 shooting. That was, I know he kind of peppered it up at the end. If you watch this game, like, I don't know what Colorado State was doing, just kind of playing the foul game when the game was clearly over. Because he shot like maybe 4 extra free throws in this. But interestingly enough, a save record for most free throws made in a game by just any player ever over there. So Jake Heidbreeder has that to his name. He said that's the most free throws he's ever shot in a game, which, 16 for 16, I'd believe it. But he's been really good at the free throw line this year, and just overall, a pretty good game. I know for him, I know everybody kind of recognizes his 3-point shooting, but he's really good going to the basket. I don't think that gets enough credit within his game. He's really good off the ball as well. He had a couple and ones in this game where he's just, cut into the basket and he caught his man sleeping. So, he had, beyond the 3-point shooting, Heidbreeder's done a really good job on just, expanding his game, because he showed that at Air Force years and years ago. But now that he's in Fresno and he's kind of working beyond Zayon Collins, who could orchestrate the offense a little bit more and Breeder can play off the ball, he could kind of showcase his skill set in that regard. As far as, moving without the ball and, get into a spot and, beyond the 3-point shooting, showing what he can bring to the table. I've been impressed with Deshaun Gorey now for a few weeks. And especially since we've gotten into Mountain West play, these rotations get smaller and they get slimmer, right? Because, look, DJ Stickman's getting 3 minutes now, and he was a rotation piece in the non-conference portion of the schedule, right? Jack Manny was getting way more minutes, and Wilson Jack has kind of taken over, the 5 spot, kind of playing that old school dunker position for Fresno. And, DJ Stickman, his minutes have shrunk, and, that's going to be the case out here in conference play, right? Where you're going to rely on tons of guys, your front line, your starting 5 a whole lot more to kind of get it done. And, these 10-man rotations kind of go to 7 to 8 player rotations, especially, when you be on I'd say San Diego State's an outlier in that, right? There's certain teams that are outliers like San Diego State and Utah State that just kind of have so much depth where they're comfortable rolling 8-9 guys out and staggering the minutes. And, where, certain guys may play more in certain spots in other games, depending on how the game script's going. So, it's always interesting to see how, those minutes fluctuate at this time of year. But Deshaun Gorey, he took 15 shots in this game, but 14 points, 10 boards. I thought he's been one of the more impressive players probably in the Mountain West I'm talking, because he's a freshman and he's a local kid. He was recruited out there in Fresno. Obviously Wahlberg knows the area pretty well, but this guy, we're talking maybe in November, he was still kind of trying to get his feet under him, and that's totally normal for a true freshman. But man, he looks totally comfortable out there. He's adjusted to the physicality of Mountain West play. He had a bucket in this game where he was short on a floater and then immediately followed it up and, had a nice little tip in at the basket. You could teach that stuff, but for it to come as a true freshman, that's pretty impressive. He's been really good. He's got double-double in 2 Mountain West games this year. And, he's not the most biggest guy in the world either. He's pretty tall, but it's not like he's, bulky, right? Where he could kind of out-muscle players. He's going in there into the painted area at will, and he's finishing more often than not. So he's a player that's flashed to me since we've gotten into Mountain West play as oh yeah, this guy can go and he can play, and he's going to continue to get heavy minutes like he has. 37 minutes. They're rolling him out there for a reason. Wahlberg hasn't really been able to, force to pull him out in any way, for some other guy, because he's given him some really good stuff. And then David Douglas, now he's really starting to kind of get things going now. He had a really good game in San Jose in the second half, kind of went on a 10-0 run himself, had some good open threes, kind of made a contested shot where, one of the San Jose State players was, flying by and he was kind of unconscious at the time shooting. But when you get 12 points and now he's in the starting lineup now over Cameron Foss, he's 24 minutes. So they're kind of splitting the minutes there, but Douglas is coming off the injury now. He's a big part. He's going to be a bigger part of what they do now down the stretch. But I keep saying it, Fresno against these middle tier teams is going to have every chance in the world to beat them. And you're starting to see that right now in a spot like this. Colorado State and Fresno State, 2-4 now in Mountain West play. Hey, Fresno is started. I wouldn't say they're approaching the middle. I still probably like the upside of a Colorado State more on a neutral field or on a neutral court, but you're starting to see where you go to Fresno State and it ain't going to be easy for those middle tier teams. And I expect that trend to continue. Colorado State, I would say, not the greatest offensive performance. They shot 46% from the field, right? And they did not really control this game at all. Fresno, like I said, on wire to wire. You see a 14-point halftime lead. Colorado State punched back, in this game, I would say early in the second half, but Fresno had an answer. So you got to give those guys a whole lot of credit. Brendan Recksteiner, I mean, he had 18 points in this game, but they all came early on. You know, I mean, he had like 10 points. Like he had like eight of Colorado State's 10 points early on, like where he hit a three, he had a steal, had a layup, where, he kind of piled it on earlier and then he kind of fizzled out. Josh Pasquarelli starting to adjust to the Mountain West physicality. And this is what I was kind of a little bit worried, where he kind of shot it so damn good early on in the season. Like, yeah, of course you expect those regression to come and numbers to fizzle out, but he's on the top of the scouting report in a lot of these Mountain West games where he's getting, one of the top defenders against, these Mountain West teams every single night. So I think he's in a little bit of an adjustment period. They're expecting Kyle Jorgensen back, which I think will kind of open things up a whole lot more for everybody, especially because Jorgensen's kind of a stretch five, right? Where his numbers from beyond the arc are pretty good, just overall this year. And I think that will kind of, get some things going. Rashawn Bemba, only 18 minutes. He was in foul trouble in this game. Like, Ali Farouk Manesh, like, let's not forget he's a first-year head coach. I know he's been on a bunch of these Mountain West destinations, and he knows these coaches pretty well as well from an assistant. But these are some big shoes to fill now, and you're in the meat of Mountain West play now, where everybody, there's really good coaches. These assistants are game planning for everything, and but I think when Jorgensen comes back, I think Colorado State's going to start to round into form a little bit. This was just a very tricky spot for them, I thought. As far as, look, Fresno's been pretty good at home this year. They've done some pretty good things. I think they're better than what people maybe expect, or what, probably what from the body of work maybe people have seen. So give Fresno credit here. Give Vance Wahlberg some credit, right? Because he had 2 Mountain West wins last year, and he's already got 2 this year already, and we're in mid-January. So, and, he's got 10 freshmen on this roster. I know a lot of those guys are European players, so, you can only take so much into that, because those guys have played, in their respective leagues overseas. And, the term freshman is like a 22-year-old freshman, but still, those guys are still raw, adjusting to each other's play. And he's done a pretty good job with what he's had. And with all the preseason rumblings, like, hey, he likes this roster a ton, and he's been coaching for 40 years. I mean, you kind of see the upside of the roster and why he likes it a ton. So, Zayon Collins, I'd like a few more shot attempts. Like, he is the guy that, he's orchestrating things, but I'd like him to get like maybe 3 more shots up a game, because he took 9 in this game. I'd like 3 more, because he can certainly do that. A pretty well-rounded game for him as well, and good win for Fresno. Let's go into our next game here with New Mexico and Grand Canyon. Wow, yeah. So this was the high-profile game of the night, if you want to, I guess, cut that from a record standpoint, given what Grand Canyon's done on the road this year. Winning at Wyoming wire to wire, and Boise wire to wire, really. I mean, they never were really threatening to, trail that game, come from behind, or anything in either of those. So obviously New Mexico was going to be very attentive in a game like this, just given what Grand Canyon's done with the 3-1 Mountain West record. This game, I have to say, give Grand Canyon credit here. I mean, I know they lost by 23, but New Mexico really cooked the books here, I thought, towards the back end of this game. I thought GCU played pretty well here for about 30 minutes. Obviously, Bryce Drew getting ejected kind of flipped this game upside down, right? Where, he gets ejected on, what was probably something pretty questionable. I know he had himself some, I would say, like, hey, I don't know if he was saying something to Dayton Albury, he was saying something to ref. The angle from the Mountain West Network was pretty wonky at the time. So, obviously I'm not in the building. I probably, just based on from what I saw, I probably thought, hey, give him a technical foul and kind of get the team going. But I mean, he got double teed pretty quick there. So, short temper from the Mountain West officials, but I mean, that's how things are going to go here in the Mountain West. And I guess that was kind of your, hey, welcome to the Mountain West moment there for GCU, right? Where, maybe it was coming versus, it probably wasn't going to come versus Wyoming. Boise's been obviously way down this year. And especially after a loss to UNLV, we'll dive into, right? Like, this is kind of the spot where you're going to get a taste of your own medicine as far as the crowd, where New Mexico's crowd is as crazy as yours, if not much more nuts. And you're probably not going to get a call in this game. And especially when you're kind of trailing in it, because Boise State kind of got a favorable whistle when they got Grand Canyon, especially when kind of the refs are trying to get Boise back into the game and midway through the second half over a week ago now. And this was kind of just a different situation where you're trailing by 8, your coach gets ejected, and then the floodgates and the kill shot kind of opens up for New Mexico. Kind of, the run that we've always see there at the pit, where we're kind of gridlocked at 2-3 possession game, and then it kind of just goes haywire from there for the road team, right? As far as, just some players in this game. So that's when this game really turned. But Jake Hall is the guy that just continues to impress. Coming off a Mountain West Freshman of the Week, but I mean, he had 7 of the 10 Lobo points early on. I mean, he forced Bryce Drew to take a timeout before the under 16 first half media timeout, which kind of told you like, hey, we got to cool him off. He's hitting everything, right? And you were kind of a little bit worrisome in the spot there for GCU when Bryce Drew's calling the timeout that early, like, hey, we got to adjust a little bit. This obscure arena and this crowd, and not a lot of guys have been here outside of Jaden Henley. We got to settle in here. And they settled in pretty, I would say, GCU pretty strongly. Relied on Henley a ton just to kind of get them going, slow the game down, get to the free throw line. I mean, that was a pretty good battle there with Henley and Tomislav Bullion. And I know Bullion was in foul trouble in this game, but quite honestly, I mean, 5 points, 4 boards, was in the foul trouble. He did his job on Henley, I thought. Like, Henley was, I thought, a little bit challenged. Now, Henley's a damn good guard. Like, he still made some crazy shots, right? Where in this game where you're like, man, that's just a really good guard, and, you're going to live with the results. But Henley we saw this on the back end of the season when he had with UNLV, where, he kind of could take a game over, especially when he's the lead guard. The best thing that happened to Jaden Henley was Deedon Thomas Jr. getting injured last year, because it boosted his portal stock, and he kind of proved to everybody like, hey, I could run an offense, and I could, get the puppies organized and, really go to work and, put my head down and get a bucket. And we've seen that a ton from Jaden Henley this year for GCU. That was a fun battle, though, with Bullion. He met the challenge, really went to work. I mean, they kind of got tied up, and, blood was starting to boil a little bit. The refs kind of had to, get in there for a moment or two there. And, we'd love to see that in the Mountain West play, right? Like, that's the physicality of the league. Like, you're not going to like each other. But it was a fun rock fight early, I thought, in their first half, where, both teams are exchanging blows, and, the defense, obviously Grand Canyon's defense has been a big storyline thus far this season. But I mean, when you got, Jake Hall kind of taking over a game early as a freshman, he's another freshman that's been really good. He kind of sets the tone early, and then kind of everybody comes along. JT Rock gave him some really good minutes as well, I thought, off the bench. Between Bullion and Rock, that's become a really good front court for New Mexico, where they could stand tall and really bang and bump with some guys and really, take on some physicality. And JT Rock, Iowa State transfer, he knows the physicality of defense that he needs to bring, right? Because those TJ Otzelberger teams in Ames get at it. So pretty good front court there for New Mexico. Has been impressing a ton. Luke Haupt, I mean, he started this game. He gave them some really good minutes. How about 7 rebounds? Didn't realize he snagged that many. And then Uriah Tenet, I mean, freshman off the bench. I mean, some of his shots, his shot selection, like some of it, like some of those threes that he takes, I'm like, oh boy, right? It's him and Chol are kind of, Chol is obviously way out there, but Tenet, it's kind of like, whoa, you're like, he's got the green light, obviously. But again, some of his shot selection is a little out there, but 14 points, man. 14 points for another freshman off the bench. Eric Olin's doing a fantastic job to get the Lobos to 5-1 in Mountain West play. I'm very intrigued to see New Mexico's game this weekend versus San Diego State, because that will be a really good test for them, because their one Mountain West loss was in an absolute low-scoring, ugly first half against Boise State, and they didn't get a good whistle there. Obviously, Eric Golan kind of figured that out, where, hey, we're not going to get the calls. We're going to have to grind this out, and Boise made enough shots in the end to pull it out. But this is a much better New Mexico team, obviously, than Boise as we stand right now, and I think that'll be a really good test for them this weekend at Viejas Arena. But good win, New Mexico. 23-point win. That'll look good for the metrics. And if you're Grand Canyon, no need to panic. No need to panic at all. No one's going to win at the pit this year, really. Maybe one team will go in there and win, but like outside of that, I don't expect GCU to go in there. I expected a New Mexico double-digit win. I didn't expect 23 points. I expected like a 10 to 13-point win where we're kind of tight early. It goes into the second half, and then, they kind of pull away late. But, man, the Bryce Drew ejection obviously changed a ton, and New Mexico took full advantage of it. Let's go to our third Mountain West game, and let's go to Air Force and San Jose State. San Jose State finds a way to grind this puppy out. 70-62 win, 8-point win against the Air Force Falcons. Both teams 0-5 heading into Mountain West play. And this one, someone was going to win it. Everybody on the injury report for San Jose State didn't play. So again, down 4 starters. No Kobe Garland, no Jermaine Washington with those concussions. Yafet Mundi with his injury, and Javon Hanna, still no timeline for his return. So San Jose State down 4 starters. It means Tim Miles had to really go deep sea diving. Well, I mean, he didn't really have that many options, but really play some guys where, Pasha Gadarzi and Melvin Bell Jr., 40 minutes, the entirety of the game. I mean, you got no choice but to do it. Obviously, when you're down 4 starters, you're going to, even against an Air Force team that hasn't had a pulse in over a month, you're going to take it 100%. I think it could be a morale boost for this team. When SJSU, with all the injury bug and all the, losses that they've had, the fact that you control this game and had a lead for over 35 minutes, you got to be impressed. I'm not going to lie to you folks. When I watched this game, boy, was it ugly. It was ugly. I mean, you see it by the first half score of 27-21. I mean, points were coming at a premium early on. And this was a full-strength Air Force team, which, there's not going to be many spots for Air Force to kind of pull off a victory in an upset fashion this year. This was a prime spot, especially when all the bodies get ruled out for San Jose State due to injury, right? And they're all in gray tracksuits. So not very good from the Air Force perspective. Cam Sanders has been the one guy that's really where they kind of believe in that, hey, when he's a junior, he could maybe be like an Ethan Taylor type talent at the point guard position, right? Cam Sanders had 3 fouls like early on in the second half, and he grinded it out, but they had to really go rely on other bodies after. Air Force 8 for 22 from 3. That's no good. You shoot 36%, but this is a team where this is the thing with Air Force is when they're on the break, it's like they don't really get into the fast break that often because they don't really force and get too many stops. So they're really just operating in the half court with that Princeton offense. And Tim Miles has seen it enough where, even with the bodies that he's got out there, they could grind a game out and zone you to death and, really just focus on shot contest and, the 3-point shot and go from there. But hey, San Jose State, you make 18 for 24 at the free throw line. Strength for SJSU. I know you missed 6 free throws in this game, but even prior to that, outside of the season opener versus Utah, they've been pretty good at the free throw line this year. So when you got Melvin Bell kind of get into the lane, man, 2 for 7 from the free throw line. That's no good. He was responsible for pretty much all their misses, and I think that's the next step for Melvin Bell, because you're starting to see now where he's getting a whole lot more minutes than I think everyone anticipated right now because of the injuries. And he's kind of forced to, get downhill, be one of those slashing guards and create contact and get to the free throw line. But I mean, if you're getting to the line, you're not making your free throws, it's obviously no good. So they got to work on that with him. But you could see the high upside that Melvin Bell brings to the table when you watch these San Jose State games. And I think it's a good sign right now where if you're an SJSU fan, like, hey, you can hang your hat on, hey, if Godarzi could give me, obviously when everybody comes back, he's going to be a bench boost, but this is essentially your bench for San Jose with all the guys out. Ben Roseborough ended up getting injured in this game, which is obviously no good because they would have ran him down on the ground in this game, because I thought he played a pretty good game when he was out there. 19 points in 30 minutes. I mean, it was a lower body injury again, which was the injury that's been holding him out for 2 years now. And, he's been in and out of the lineup. He's only practiced twice in the last month. So that's obviously been no good. And I mean, I would be surprised if he played versus UNLV on Saturday, but that's obviously significant because he's kind of he is one of these guys where he's a 3-level scorer. He's a really good finisher, down low when he kind of gets to that area. He's been one of the better 3-point shooters that the Spartans have had this year as well. So one less body out there, for the Sparty is obviously no good. But get some bodies back versus UNLV. We already know, and we'll get to the Rebs right now. We already know the volatility that they can bring to the table. You don't know what version of them you might get. And we kind of said heading into this one, Boise State versus UNLV late night, where it could kind of get out of control, where you don't really have a good feel on what to make of these teams right now, especially the way Boise's going. This kind of always a get-up spot when UNLV kind of plays one of these heavyweight teams. It's just a matter of, can they get across the finish line? The game's going to be close with them. Can they finish it out, right? And we saw this the other day, last Friday versus Colorado State, where, this is kind of a get-up spot for them. They're on the road. Like, it's a pretty good, well-coached team with Farouk Manesh. Like, they got some players. And the game was tight for 38 minutes. And then Colorado State makes enough shots late and strings enough stops together to ultimately win the game by 8. But this one with Boise and UNLV, I mean, overtime, Rebel victory. I mean, this is kind of a hilarious game, right? If you watch this one from start to finish, kind of a hilarious game. And this is kind of classic UNLV, kind of where they've been, where, they got the silly losses versus UT Martin and Tennessee State, and then they kind of rallied to beat a pretty good program here in Boise State. 89-85 victory. So both teams were kind of throwing some haymakers early on, as far as, I mean, look at that first half score, 40-39, youtube.com/@thesportsentiment. Kind of throwing some early haymakers early on in this one. And both teams kind of met each other and kind of just exchanged blows. I mean, this was a really close game. No one was able to really gain separation at all, which we kind of always like. Gibbs UNLV. We'll start out on the Reb side. Dre Gibbs Lawhorn, how about a career high 33 points, 5 boards, 6 dimes. I mean, played 45 minutes. They relied on him a ton, obviously. I mean, he didn't come out of the game. I know Passner's been kind of challenging, like Gibbs Lawhorn, trying to squeeze every every ounce of his game that he possibly could. And man, he looks like he will most certainly be on the All Mountain West ballot. Like the way that he's going right now, he's his fifth 20-point game this year. So he's been really good for a guy. He's a high major transfer, so the upside was obviously there. He just needed to get on the floor. But you kind of see it, right? Like he can drive to the rim. Really good finisher. If not, he's going to the free throw line. He's got the open three. He can certainly take it. Didn't necessarily shoot it that well from beyond the arc this game. But Gibbs Lawhorn's been really, really good for them. And then it's just a matter of all these other pieces, putting them together, right? Because you kind of got like a lot of volatility beyond Gibbs Lawhorn, right? We've talked about Kamani Hamilton. I mean, the Emmanuel Steffen stuff was kind of nuts, right? Where sure, he gets 6.6 boards. They're trying to just throw him out there as a front court piece. He ends up getting the start in this game. And then it kind of all goes like he loses his temper at the ref. He ends up fouling out in the game, right? And this is kind of fitting, right? Because the game was obviously, all over the place. UNLV is just trying to grind it out, but they kind of just have some of these plays where, Tyron Jones or Kamani Hamilton has like one of these crazy, uber athletic plays, and then they kind of just give it all up on the defensive end like 4 seconds later because they can't get back in transition. As far as Boise State's concerned, so now they're 1-5. They end up losing this. They only took 2 threes in the second half, which I thought was pretty interesting in this one. Like, I think they're starting to maybe figure out their identity a little bit. Dylan Andrews, I mean, he had himself a pretty good game when he was out there, right? And I know we've been picking on him a ton. Shots were falling for him, but he didn't end up playing in the back end of the second half, like the final couple minutes, and then in overtime. Obviously, he only had 2 fouls. I don't know if he was cramping up because he had the ice packs on the bench. Something to monitor with one less guard on the team, right? But I think you're going to start to see Boise kind of play this old school brand of basketball now where they're going to have to really rely. And they didn't have Javen Buchanan in this game. And, they still lost. That's obviously a gigantic loss, right? Because it's just one more physical forward that could kind of go at you. But I think you're going to start to see Boise kind of really translate into that trio of Buchanan, Meadow, and Fielder to really make stuff happen for them. Because it's pretty evident right now that they cannot rely on Dylan Andrews if they want to get anywhere they want to be. Like, they just can't have him. And, they're going to need him to play make, right? But if they thought that he was kind of going to be this all-out scorer for him, it's like, no, that's not going to happen anymore. Like, Andrew Meadow taking 12 shots is kind of what I want. Fielder taking 17. I mean, I know a lot of those at the rim and things like that. And both of those guys shot 8 free throws. Like, that is the way Boise is going to have to come at you, I feel like. I mean, Pearson Carmichael, I mean, he missed 1 free throw that kind of determined the game late, as far as the whole foul game in overtime. But I mean, they took 2 shots, like I said, 2 threes Boise did in the second half from 3, and they shot like over 10 of them in the first half, and they kind of made that adjustment, like, hey, let's go impose our will at the painted area, and it worked. Like, they were in this game till the very end, but one extra play there by the Rebs late to ultimately make it happen. As far as Boise going forward here, I mean, you're tied with San Jose State at the bottom of the totem pole now. Air Force is 0-6. San Jose and Boise are both 1-5 in Mountain West play. I mean, this is obviously disappointing. You got to try to find turn the tide here and try to find your identity, and maybe you get hot in February and March. But I mean, it's looking rough right now for this Boise group. We're gonna see how it kind of goes here, game by game here. Javen Buchanan is going to give them a ton for this group. I just ultimately think that they're going to have to rely on their forwards here and kind of really kind of how they did at Maui, right? Kind of, bully their way into the paint and either get to the line or finish. And they're going to have to set up their defense, get out from there, rebound the basketball, because they've always been a good rebounding and defensive team, especially the rebounding numbers when they had Cam Martin and Tyson Degenhart, right? And Omar Stanley. Like, you knew it wasn't going to be an issue. But there was some situations in this game where you're like, whoa, UNLV is just outbodying them, and UNLV is very athletic. Like Kamani Hamilton, like you saw that slam that he had. You're like, oh my goodness, this guy just kind of brought the house down when he kind of gets to the paint and he kind of just uncorks one, right? You see it from Hamilton. This Tyron Jones, I mean, he played 33 minutes, got the start. Pastner's got no choice but to start him now. I mean, he had just some gigantic blocks in this game. I mean, the one where he had on, might have been on Carmichael or Fielder, but it didn't matter what side of the rim that he decided to go on. Tyron Jones was going to block it. I've been very impressed with him. He's kind of just one of these freshmen that just kind of sparked, was coming off the bench room, and you're starting to see he's really becoming a weapon for them defensively. And then if he can just kind of put it together offensively, right, where he could kind of just finish at the rim, because that's the big thing. Like, he is so athletic, but then he kind of has some of these moments where you're like he didn't finish that, right? So like the offensive game, I feel like is still a work in progress, but holy mackerel, when you see this guy, you see the upside, right? So I've been very impressed with him. They kind of got some good Howie Fleming minutes, I thought, in this game. UNLV did. But this is going to be an all over the place type of team, as we know. How about points off turnovers? 29 points off turnovers for UNLV. Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, that's a team where you see Gibbs Lawhorn with his length and Kamani Hamilton coming down the right alley, and then Tyron Jones rolling to the left. Like, they got options, and they're going to finish it too. So that does not shock me at all with those 29 points off turnovers there. I didn't realize like how jarring the numbers were, but that's a team that's got a whole lot of athleticism, like I said, and good win for the Rebels. Now we'll see what version of them that we get. San Jose weekend, and we'll see if San Jose gets some bodies back. But obviously, a big win for UNLV. And, for Boise, I mean, look, at large is off the table now. It's been off the table for, since the Grand Canyon loss. This is all about rallying the troops, try to establish an identity, with those forwards, try to find, the type of style of ball you're going to play, and hope you make a run here, right? I mean, this is kind of the worst. I mean, they suffered their worst home loss under Leon Rice versus Utah State, and when they got drilled by over 20. I think this is the worst. This has got to be the worst start they've ever had under Coach Leon as well, with this 1-5 Mountain West start. So you got to rally the troops. You got to get things back together, and you got to hope that you could, soften the blow, trying to get the right draw in March, and hope you're playing your best brand of ball at that time, because look, I mean, this is obviously the most disappointing team in the Mountain West right now, given the preseason expectations. And they're not coming on the right side of any of these close games. I mean, go look at the Maui Invitational results. Go look at some of these Mountain West games. Even early on in the season, right? They just haven't really passed the eye test, and we're going to see how it plays out. This is a developing story that everybody around that follows the league, I guess, has to monitor to see how this team just learns and grows going forward here. Look, let's translate into some Mountain West games that we have on tap. Obviously, we're recording this on a Wednesday. We got one Mountain West game here Wednesday evening. Early tip out there in Laradise, San Diego State at Wyoming. National TV game, so shouldn't have a hard time finding it. This is a big game for Wyoming. Like, they had a chance really against Grand Canyon where, Wyoming, and again, I was a little bit skeptical on them, right? With their non-conference schedule and them, beating some subpar teams and, across some mid-major conferences and playing a lot of those games at home. Even their road game at South Dakota State, like you're seeing the Jackrabbits, when you go look at their body of work, it's a down South Dakota State team that's naturally just a good program. So, Wyoming's wins, a little bit skeptical on them, like I said. I think that's starting to pay off a little bit right now, but they've kind of taken care of business in some spots that I think people expected them to, right? Like then when they hosted UNLV had 2 wins. Both of them, I believe, were at home, or one was on the road at Air Force. And they beat 2 of the, bottom teams in the league. And UNLV went in there and really didn't handle the altitude at all. And a fight in that game wasn't very good. And Wyoming took advantage and won by over 30. But now this is a heavyweight fight that they're going to be going into tonight. San Diego State's coming into town. We mentioned that the early on the top of the podcast that the Aztecs won by 3 last year, and it was very tight game. And Wyoming offensively last year, if you recall, just from watching this team outside of Obi Agbim, their lead guard, they didn't really have too much consistency from anybody else. And you're starting to see like this Wyoming team, even though like I've called them out with their schedule and their record and their strength of schedule not being the greatest, when you watch them, they definitely have some more consistency on the offensive side where, they could go rely on Leland Walker to drop them 20. Gavin Gores could get them to the lane and, get to the line and finish with ease. Caden Bennett is a guy where they've been heavily relying on where they need him to go get a bucket, right? Obviously, the game's in Laramie. It's a very wonky, arena. The altitude obviously plays a massive factor into it. A dynamic that I think is also worth bringing up here and just an interesting angle is Jeremiah Oden, San Diego State forward, used to play at Wyoming early on in his career. He's kind of been all over the place, as most guys have been. But he started his career out in Wyoming. Obviously, no Sundance Wicks because Sundance was an assistant under Jeff Linder. This was the Jeff Linder era that he played in. And it's become I guess a very interesting, it's always interesting. Like you're going to get, of course, these return games, but obviously I'd say it's a pretty big deal. Like he's going back to his old stomping grounds and, Odin was at DePaul for a year after that. And he was at Charlotte for 1 year and he didn't even play. So like this is like probably the closest to home as probably you're going to get. Because he spent 2 years at Wyoming, and he knows Sundance Wicks probably pretty well, right? So I feel like that is something just to keep an eye on in this game. Like, don't be surprised if you get an extra gear to Jeremiah Oden tonight. But this is a really good test for Wyoming. Just like I think in this next game, it's a really good test for the Nevada Wolfpack at Utah State, right? Like, both of these teams have impressed. And now you got to go face against the heavyweights. Usually I'd say like, hey, Wyoming's got every chance to win. I think they do. But I think San Diego State is going to make enough plays in this one to ultimately put it together. It's pretty evident now. Like these San Diego State games are not going to look pretty. And their Fresno game, that was probably one of their best games top to bottom we've seen all year. But yeah, this game is going to be, I feel like a low scoring, it's going to be lower scoring, a grinder of a game. It's going to turn into a rock fight. We're going to see if Wyoming can put enough stuff together offensively. And if it's, what version of the pokes we get. Is it, what we got versus Grand Canyon where, San Diego State is up 10 points the whole entirety of the game and we're kind of waiting for Wyoming to make a run? Or I'm interested to see what we get here. I'm going to lean with San Diego State to win the game. Don't love it. The altitude obviously plays a big factor into all of this. And a lot of these guys, let's not forget this either. Like, sure, Bird's played there. Miles Heidi's played in Laramie, but not a lot of guys have played in this arena. And I know San Diego State's got some returners this year. But you also got an LZ Harrington's who's gonna get a taste of this environment for the first time. And I've talked to enough people now over the years, just across players and coaches. First media timeout's gonna kill you, right? And then it's about all getting adjusted from there. And that's why you see a lot of these teams run out of gas in the second half, right? Because it's just a different beast. Once when you're playing in it. So very interested to see how San Diego State handles that. Obviously, Dutcher's been in this in this environment before, but obviously a big game for the home team tonight. As for Nevada, it's a big one for them as well, right? Like, this is a really good reality check game, just to, I guess, gauge where Nevada is at right now, because they were a few possessions away from beating San Diego State. They've had some really good road wins at Colorado State. And I'm blanking on where their other one was. They had a home win versus Boise. Like, they've taken care of business, and Nevada's really impressed. How are we going to handle this Utah State? Forget about the crowd, but just the up-tempo, output that Utah State can throw at you, right? Because they're going to come, and when they're on the fast break, how do they handle it? Rebag's obviously going to be massive in this game. Elijah Price, who I failed to mention on Monday, and I apologize for that, because he's been a big part of what they've been doing here the past 3 weeks now. And like, Price, for a guy that was strictly a raw offensive player at Fresno State, but was a menace defensively, we're starting to see now where it's year 2 in the Mountain West. He's going with dudes now. Like, I was very impressed with him in that San Diego State second half. He was out-muscling Pharaoh Compton, Magoon Guat. Like, he was not afraid. And he knew it was going to be a street fight. And he still went out there and, put some really good strings of, possessions together offensively. I mean, they were just feeding him in the post in the second half, right? It was strictly Elijah Price and Tayshawn Comer. Now we're going to will them to a win. I think that's what's going to have to happen tonight. Elijah Price versus Isaac Templin will be a pretty fun matchup here, because those are two guys that are gonna be going at each other. But we're gonna see how Alfred's bunch handles the road. I mean, they're a double-digit underdog in this game. Nevada is, and I have to say, if Nevada could find a way to keep up with the Utah State bunch here for 30 minutes, I'd be impressed. Because Utah State's been invincible so far this year. They're top 25 now. I mean, their one loss is at South Florida, which no shame in a true road game. Outside of that, they've won games decisively. They've been drilling teams in the process, and they've looked good on both sides of the ball, and their depth has been a big part of what they do. So, good test for Nevada. Very interested to see how that plays out. And then, look, Utah State, they go right back on the road, on Saturday at Grand Canyon. That's going to be a very fun one. Grand Canyon's going to have plenty of time to rebound off this game. I mean, you're essentially getting an extra day of rest back at home. I mean, that could be a potential slip-up spot for the Aggies. That's a spot that we're going to see how prime time Grand Canyon is, as far as, potentially making a run in March in this conference tournament. Like, this is a spot where we're going to see if Grand Canyon is going to approach that tier 1 status of the league, or like tier 1B, right? Because they're still kind of stuck in the middle tier, but I would probably rank them in the higher in the middle tier than everybody else. But that is a game on Saturday. You host Utah State, who's right now the favorite to win in the regular season. You're at home. You're going to have the crowd. I think it'll be a good test for both teams. How good is Grand Canyon, and how does Utah State handle a real environment that they've never been to either before, right? That's kind of been a situation that we've been waiting for both sides now, since we've kind of been talking about these teams, even going back to the preseason. Obviously, a desperation spot on Boise State side, home Friday night. I would honestly expect them to bounce back. Colorado State's been very spotty on the road, but Kyle Jorgensen can be back. So CSU could be at full strength there. Whether it's Nevada, I mean, Nevada's probably going to go 1-1 in that road stretch. These bottom games are all on Saturday. I'd expect Nevada to get it done at Air Force. UNLV and San Jose State will see the Spartans injury situation this weekend. That's a game I'll probably be in the building for. So very interested to see how does UNLV come off the Boise State win, because an emotional overtime win at home, like in a game that exerted a whole lot of energy for. I know that you're going to have 4 days plus you're going to have to travel one day, where you're going to think about that win for 24 hours and then you're going to move on. But we've seen this enough now with UNLV, even under Pastner now, where it's just there is the ultimate, zigzag seesaw team, where they step up against some good competition and then they lay an egg against a team that they shouldn't. And UNLV is going to certainly be favored in there. And if San Jose State gets Kobe Garland and Jermaine Washington back from those concussions, encouraging that they were on the bench, if you could get, your 1 and 2 guard back, San Jose, that would obviously be a massive deal. And I think would change the dynamics of the game big time there in favor of San Jose State. Wyoming and Fresno, well, we'll see what version of Wyoming we get tonight, and then translating into Saturday out there at the Save Mart Center. I mean, that's going to be a coin flip game. That's going to be a coin flip game that, especially if Wyoming wins for San Diego State, I would not be shocked if Fresno goes in there, riding high, sure off their win, but, staying at home. And, Wyoming, obviously going to be ocean after potentially knocking out San Diego State. And then New Mexico going on the road at San Diego State is obviously going to be the game of the weekend, right? Towards the back end of the college basketball day, we're going to see how primetime Eric Olin's bunch is. They've certainly won on the road, right? At Colorado State being the one that really stands out. They've taken out Mississippi State, of course, in the non-conference. So they've certainly been up for the big games. But when New Mexico and San Diego State get together, it's just always, it's going to be a physical game. It's going to be a heavyweight fight. And New Mexico, I would say, this New Mexico team's pretty physical on both sides, obviously. But even going back to last year, because I thought obviously last year they were terrific defensively in Patino's last year. And they were really grinding teams out, because those teams with House and Mashburn and Dent, when they kind of had those 3 guards rolling, like they had no real fight in them. They were just kind of an all finesse team, right? Where, they're going to just simply rely on their jump shots. Like House was able to get in your grill back then, and he's a fearless son of a gun. But, these last 2 New Mexico teams have been able to handle San Diego State's physicality pretty well. So, I mean, that's going to be a really good game. It's going to be a really good game. Obviously, situations change based on what happens with San Diego State tonight here on Wednesday. But obviously a big game for both sides there. That's going to fluctuate and impact the Mountain West standings. So we got ourselves a good slate of basketball coming up. Good slate of Tuesday, and this has been very fun. So we're very excited to keep things going here on the Sports Sentiment. We got our college football national championship preview that will be out sometime either later this evening on Wednesday. We'll have a guest coming on the pod for that, or be out early Thursday morning. Again, appreciate all the love here. We're going to get things back up and running here on the podcast. Needed a 2-week hiatus just to get the body right. But we're ready to go. Mountain West play, you're just starting to see there is a big time matchup every like 2 times a week now. And we're learning more about these teams as they hit the road and kind of expand here, into mid-January, and very excited to monitor all these teams, get a close eye look area once when we come to San Jose, kind of give a little bit of more analysis there after seeing every team in person. And obviously we can't wait for it. So appreciate the love. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, retweet wherever you find us out there on the Twitter spaces. Always appreciate the growing audience. And of course, just Mountain West fans, college basketball fans, to find out about this podcast. So always appreciate everybody. And we got a whole lot of content coming your way. So as always, I'm your host, Nick Urias, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast.